Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Jared. Hey, I host a daily live podcast where we discuss news and politics, and I'm a socialist. In fact, hey, I founded the American Socialist Party. You can follow me on social media if you search for the American Socialist Party. I don't know, my brain short circuited it. I don't have it. Anyway, hey, I had to take a little time this morning for myself, so you have to forgive me. Wife's out of the house though, hanging out with her mom, donating platelets. Um, I'm thinking this morning about like how do you build a platform for the American Socialist Party? And I told you that at its core, um, socialism is an egalitarian movement, a pro-equality movement, right? And then obviously, as I've said, unions are super important. But I wanted to point you today to an article on Gallup about the most important issues uh, coming out of the 2024 US elections. 52% of people were mostly concerned about the economy. A lot of people have asked me how I feel about a socialist style economy. I understand that largely things would stay the same economically, uh, with the exception that unions are partners with the Socialist Party. You understand this is a workers' party. This is a party for everybody, right? So one of the ways that you can influence the economy is to have socialists in leadership positions in unions, helping to get better pay and benefits for their employees, because when they're happy, they perform better, right? And then you're able to essentially make more money and hopefully pay more taxes. 49% of people were concerned about democracy in the United States. As a veteran, as an Eagle Scout, as someone who has a great appreciation for law enforcement and the rule of law, and wants to, anyway, I'd say that I took an oath to the Constitution as it stands, and that I don't want to see or feel like democracy is failing. And that's sort of on the current political, the current politicians. That's their job, is to safeguard democracy. It's the current federal judges and district judges, right? And it's this Supreme Court ultimately going to decide a lot of things. In terms of terrorism and national security, I want to point out, when people bring up like national security issues, we've never been more vulnerable than we are right now. We've distanced ourselves from our allies. We've sided with Russia against Ukraine, who we paid money into. So see, it's such a foolish endeavor to side with Russia in a war they're losing. It's such a loser. This is what a loser does, right? Keep in mind, Russia's the aggressor and they're losing in that war. At some point, I read like Ukraine was, if you think of it as Call of Duty, which is pretty morbid, their kill death ratio was like 19-1. So for those of you that have ever played video games or served in the military or in law enforcement, you think about Russia invaded and is taking heavy CAS, right? So I think in terms of terrorism and national security, the greatest risk right now is basically the entire Republican right. All of them took money from Russia. All of them. 100 elected Democrats took money from AIPAC, that's Israel. Bibi. That's a genocide. And this past administration, don't get it twisted, funded a genocide. Sold weapons and ammo, free Palestine, okay, and Slava Ukraine. As far as next most important Supreme Court justices, I think you have to have a plan to add to the Supreme Court And I think that has to happen pretty quickly because it's pretty clear that there's no enforceable code of ethics within this Supreme Court group of Supreme Court justices. They're not able to hold each other accountable. What good is democracy if it's a rich boys club? If it's a two-tier justice system in which some people can get punished and some people can't. A lot of people talk about immigration. Obviously, I think we just need immigration reform, but we have to understand that we're the most developed country in the world, and climate change is hitting, right? It's a huge issue. It's not nearly as important on this as I think people have just dug their head into the sand. And ultimately, people are like, there's not a lot you can do. There is. You absolutely can. Grow a garden, put solar panels up, get a generator, right? Protect yourselves. Pay attention to the weather, right? Try not to be in the way when dangerous weather approaches. Like, you could at least do that, I think. As far as education is one of the most important things. Hey, as a socialist, I want everyone to have universal health care and education and income and housing. So education is part of that, right? We want to see universities eliminate tuition. And think about it, the first universities that just say, hey, on the agenda of this American Socialist Party, we want to eliminate tuition and offer that to all current students and future students, right? And again, for the first universities to do that, especially the bigger they are, the better. I'm a Purdue alum. One of the things that I'll appreciate is a very socialist thing. Purdue had frozen tuition for over 20 years. I think it'd be great if there was a university that had made so much money over time that you could never charge tuition again. You still make billions of dollars a year, right? Make your tuition $0. That's a socialist thing to do. In terms of healthcare, hey, I want universal healthcare. Hear me out on this. I used to work in the healthcare industry. There already exists universal healthcare in the form of American healthcare, where all these healthcare companies have what are called dual special needs plans. They're typically meant for people with Medicare and Medicaid, but long story short, they cost $0 monthly, cost $0 in copay, have no max amount out of pocket, for example, give you thousands of dollars for things like dental, vision, and hearing, and they'll ever even give you money for bills and groceries, right? Well, they could just enroll everybody in that, and everybody could just decide to cover all the healthcare they can. And I know that you're thinking about how do you pay for socialism, but we'll get to it. As far as a gun policy, personally, I think that the Second Amendment's outdated, and that the purpose of the Second Amendment was for there to be a militia, right? A well-trained militia. And their job would be to rise up against a tyrannical government. I just want to point this out, how useless the Second Amendment is. There's a tyrannical government. Where's the militia? See, your Second Amendment is horseshit, and those of you that hoard weapons and guns are a big part of your life, there's a tyrannical government, and you're not storming the Capitol. Oh, exactly right. It's because you're ultimately a fucking coward. And you understand that at the core of an assault is communication, and y'all don't communicate. So right now, think about this. America has been taken over by billionaires who took advantage of the poor. And the first thing they did when they got into office is immediately try to kill poor people. So they try to pull the ladder up behind them, and the very people that got them there, that's who they're targeting. I think the Republican Party is going to collapse. Democrats are no better, right? They have ultimately no gun policy. Here's the thing I can tell you that's different between me, personally. I would ban the AR, right? Just go ahead and make the move, right? As a socialist, right? Like, make a move, ban the AR. Get all the hell for it, but understand like 70% of people are good with that. Most people are like, hey, they ban AR. That's a great fucking move, right? I want us to lay down our arms, turn them into plowshares, and build gardens and stay alive and long enough to prosper. Because it's going to get hot, kids. I'm just throwing climate change into this early and often. About abortion. I wouldn't say I'm like pro-abortion, but like I'm pro-choice. I've met a lot of people that just should have been aborted, right? Flatly, and to make a joke at an odd time. But yeah, that's how honestly how I feel about it. Like, it's between a doctor and the pregnant person, and not ultimately anyone else. And it's that individual pregnant person's decision, and I approve of whatever their decision is. And I don't really think that it's anyone's business otherwise. As far as taxes, hey, the social economic theory says that taxes, interest, and rent are derivative of your labor, and the lower we can make all of those things, the better. It's better for you to have more money in your pocket so that you can be more reactive, right? So that when your car breaks down, you can fix it right away. When you have a medical emergency, you can just pay the emergency bill, right? Um, your taxes could absolutely fund socialism. So don't get it twisted. Don't ever let anyone tell you you can't afford it. You could just federally legalize marijuana. And most states now have legal marijuana anyway, and they're making plenty of money, hear me, plenty of money to be able to pay for socialism. All the medical bills that you should, because I know people are like, how do you pay for the healthcare thing? But like all those medical bills that you would generate that you don't pay under universal healthcare, the state takes it out of the taxes collected from legal weed. We turn it into a cash crop nationwide. That's my economic plan. Federally legalize cannabis, turn into a cash crop. The climate change, again, to bring climate change up again, climate change in the United States, the way it's happening. Obviously, there's more dangerous storms, right? Earthquakes, tornadoes. We got all kinds of crazy shit going on in the U.S., right? It's a big ass country, right? Tons of people, but hey, drought, dry climate, hot temperatures because of climate change, right? 2 degrees Celsius. Okay, that's about 6 degrees. Temperatures going up. Hey, that means that a lot more places in the United States could grow. Okay, and so if we legalize cannabis nationwide, and it already is a fucked up industry. Like, some places you go, you can only pay in cash, right? And they can only deposit cash, and it's just like a fucked up thing. Like, what if it was just federally illegal and treated like tobacco, right? You gotta show ID and shit and be legal, right? Hopefully, right? And as far as crime is on a low because poor people don't have money. See, do you understand, like, the reason that the world is the way it is now is because we've let our masters let us be poor. So like, your employer pays you just enough to survive, but never enough to be able to like rise up against a tyrannical government. Because here we are with a tyrannical government. I'm gonna keep pointing that out too. But one of the reasons I'm making this video, and this will be the cutoff, it's a long video. One of the reasons I'm making this video is because one of the most important issues was the distribution of income and wealth in the United States. And listen to me. Part of the socialism, like the very definition of socialism, is the seizing the means of production. And the way you do that in a syndicalist socialist society is you make unions super important, and you want socialists in charge of unions, people that want everyone to have health care and education and income and housing, and they're taking care of groups of people. You want those people in politics, right? Because that's your literal job, is to deal with the public and what's going on in your community, right? Like, that's literally what politics is. Is like, you get elected because you have the best interest of the community you're representing and the nation at large, right? That's kind of what I thought anyway. But I wanted to make this long form video to sort of introduce you to kind of how I approach building a political party in 2025. I look at the exit polls of the 2024 US election, say what are the most important topics, and the first long form video I make that I share with the American Socialist Party says the following: hey, we have actual policy platform plans for each of the most important issues. And I wanted to keep going because I want to say something about transgender rights being the lowest on this list, and the fact that they're on this list is relevant as a major issue to the more than about 38% of voters think transgender rights is like important. And I just want to make sure I tell my transgender friends that I see you, and climate change wasn't nearly goddamn important enough. because I think we're not thinking about that when we think about politics. We have this like power struggle in Washington right now, and like ultimately it's like it's evil and evil. It's the entire Republican right took money from Russia. They're all Russian assets, and the left, 100 of them are funded by AI PAC. And so it's like Russia versus Israel in elected office right now. We need the American Socialist Party that I'm founding. I founded it, right? Uh, I may be like a white cis male, right? But I know that this movement is not about me. It is about us, right? And it's about the fight, that the struggle that we're in. So to close here, make sure that you search for the American Socialist Party on Twitter, on Blue Sky, and on Facebook. There is a group, a public group called the American Socialist Party that I'm going to post this content to. Have a good rest of your day.